You know what? I should probably share this, actually. That would be better with me. All right, give me 1 second here. Let me just share this. Coming right back. More. Give me a second. No, I'm not doing a jingle. No jingles. Just made me think of Dave when you said jingle. I'm sharing it to the Telegram thing. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I did share it because people would probably appreciate that. Okay, sorry if it took me a minute. Ignore the first 30 seconds. You probably did, or you're still here. So we're going to do another another 15-minute show here just because I'm in between things. Stopped by to say hello and let you know how the book is progressing. I know you're all dying to know what long-winded rant you're going to have to actually read versus listen to. But we are moving along well, and welcome to the USSA. And, the beginning of it really talks about it. I finished the first third of the book about what we're fighting. Why are we stuck in a fight? Well, we have people who basically think they're going to find the fountain of youth in a test tube and in a syringe needle where they go ahead and put some nanobots. Crazy, but that's the world we live in, is it not? The what is the technocracy? What is technocracy? It's the logical resumption of what happens when you go down the enlightenment path of thinking everything's an object. All of a sudden, people become objects instead of subjects. Morality gets pushed aside, and you find that everyone wants to go forward figuring a way to use somebody. And if you think about it, our system, we say we're in a democracy, we're in a republic, we're in communism. We're not in any of those things because we are objects. We are the objects of other subjects, and the people who run that is the technocracy. That is the oligarchy, and that is the who are we fighting. And the oligarchy is not who you think they are. No, it's not one group of people, although there are quite a few from certain tribes. That's true, and you do see certain elements go forward. But what it really is they are the magicians of the world. And why do I say that? Because you still think your money has value because little pyramids and Latin writing on it. God knows, if I wrote something in Sanskrit, how much would it be worth? Oh, wait, they tried that too, but it didn't work. They always find new ways to put things forward. And if you start to understand life right, you begin to understand that you are dealing with the magicians of this world. And why do I say that? Because they give you something that seems to have value based upon usually a strong feeling and an emotional response, but in fact does not. And when you think of technology, for instance, and the fact that we see things constantly being simplified and adjusted, you really get into it. But what do they use to go ahead and keep control? They use Maoism. And how and why does that make any sense? What happens in Maoism is this. You have a situation where you have a ideology whose idea is perpetual revolution. Basically, it's a human blending machine. Can't accomplish anything, can't solve anything, will remove a lot of people, will create the perfect distraction because all sane people who are stuck dealing with these crazies just realize you put a bunch of rabid zombies into the pit. So when you were wondering why it is trillionaires are supporting woke social justice movements that go out there and have Maoist support in the Northwest, they're doing it because it keeps the middle class from having any chance to elevate, the poor from looking upwards, and it creates a division within humanity that they're trying to accomplish. And what is this all about? What I try to tell you in this book is that the war that we used to fight was lost. The political war was lost. The economic war was lost. All those things except the spiritual war. And thankfully, Lord Jesus Christ is here for us. Nonetheless, we have to walk the mile in these shoes, and we don't know when or if the end's coming. But that is where my thought is going in the future, the end of the world. And I think what we may end up doing is we may end up doing a rebrand where I will bring back the podcast y'all loved, except I'm not going to censor myself. Now, I will admit something. This is a moment of pure honesty from yours truly, the host. I have always sort of wanted to be respected, not really wanted to be canceled, and wanted to go ahead and just be able to say certain things without destroying my future, but I've realized I don't really give a damn, and don't you feel the same? The malaise which is destroying our civilization can only be dealt with by one thing, and that's truth. No, I'm not going to go out there, be an edgelord, and scream out slogans that aren't going to change anything. But what it does mean is we're going to go ahead and get rid of all the false idols along the way. We're going to sacrifice things that are not true, and we're going to go ahead and talk about things that are true. And if they make us all uncomfortable, well, then we'll have to deal with that. But we'll deal with it like adults, and we'll move forward and start doing that. I'd love to do some shows where maybe we bring some people on. If I can figure out how to do an interview properly, we'll see if your Neanderthal host can go ahead and evolve beyond telepathy to technology enough to go ahead and at least record a telephone call. And I mean, Lord knows, our intelligence agencies figured out 90 years ago. At this point, I should have caught up. So what we're going to do is we'll go forward with that. You'll probably see 1 to 2 YouTube shows a week when I come back forward. I'm hoping to be back here at the beginning of April in a more full-time sense. And we'll talk about some of the other topics on there, and we'll structure the shows much more so that I can say to you what needs to be said. And look, YouTube's going to ban me. That's fine. I accept that. And I just don't care because I'm... What's that? No, well, I'm doing a little conversation. No, I don't want. I'll talk about what I want to talk about. Anyway, Dana says hi. So it's fine. So anyway, where was I? All right. So what I was telling you is this is kind of where I'm going to take, and I'll tell you why I'm going to take it that way. I want to have some utility to you. I really do believe civilization is falling apart, and I'll tell you how I know it is. You go out there and you can just see the mass apathy. The only people who have any energy are the ones who want to destroy everything. The ones who actually care about anything, you can just see there's like a deadness out there. They've given up, and they've given up because the system is at war against itself. The people who should be defending us from the system defend the system against us, right? That's the first problem you go into. The people who should be providing information lie to us and go ahead and trick us at every step of the page. You know, we were supposed to be educated about history to go around this. You have to literally spend thousands of dollars to build a book collection just to begin unworking the lies they've told you. You could save a lot of money and spend about $200 and get my full collection, but hey, who am I to go advertise? Nonetheless, what you do need to know as we move forward with this is that all of those parts were how this was stolen from us. And that's what the book does going to do in this second, I don't know, 2/3 of it, maybe 60%, hard to say. We're going to look at education. We're going to look at media. We're going to look at finance. And we're going to look at how they play their tricks. And it's usually the same trick, to be honest with you. What they do is they'll start out by saying, okay, well, now we have all the power. Like, you have something real. For instance, let's say you owe a piece of land. And then they go and say, oh, wouldn't it be great if we educated your kids for you? All you got to do is give us a little bit of money. And then all of your money. Oh, you can't afford to pay the money. Well, now we're going to take your land. You see, you used to have lands and a kid, and now you have neither. It's a funny trick how it works that way. We call that property tax. But there are other ones you can use that are perfect examples of this. And the tricks are as old as history. And if you're willing to approach it with the mind of a hypnotist and a magician, you begin to see how that is played out. And what ends up happening is a few people end up controlling everything. And once you control everything, what does a control freak do? Control more. What else would you be? Because there's never enough, especially in a whole society conditioned to think excess is actually commitment. And it's a terrible way to look at things, yeah? God, I realize my beard looks like Santa Claus. How disturbing is this? This is like Santa Claus, the subpolar years. All right, leave that aside. So what I was going to say is that as we go forward with this, the final piece is how do they enforce it? They pick whatever ridiculous dictate they have, and then to ensure no one can follow and understand what they're actually doing with it, they put all the Maoists in charge. So why do you think you see these people on the media, in government, and in the schools? Because their job is to make the kids so dumb that no one can catch the crime. And it's pretty funny how that's actually working. And why are they doing it? Because they think there's no consequence. They think whatever they can do to cheat death as fast as they can get there is worth it. So as we go forward into a future that looks like RoboCop, we'll have to see why it is that every single area like this works this way and how we can predict what's coming next. And the bad news is it's not going to happen. One of two things will happen, you know, in the short term. Either the more likely of all solutions is the neoliberal elites will continue stringing us all along on a long, slow descent into despair where we can do less and less, and eventually they get to a certain critical mass and they can move forward, or they might go ahead and have their, you know, their rabid animals beat them, and the Maoists might go ahead and purge them as they've done before, in which case then everyone run for your lives, but at least make sure you're well armed. These are the futures for that America is likely to deal with. And I have so many people who come to me and they'll say, good to see you, Tim, glad you're here, and good to see you too, Dean. One of the things that, you know, I was going to say about this is as we've gone forward with this and you know, you're dealing with these different consequences, the question we need to begin figuring out is what the heck the rest of us are going to do about this, because Lord knows you don't want to sit here and be bored and miserable the rest of your life. That's not what I want for you. What we can do is we can begin looking for truths. And I told you, I think I'm going to call the show End of the World, but I'll tell you something that's interesting. If you ever get to the end of the world, sometimes you find that's just a new beginning. So one of the things you really need to be smart about. Good to see you, Josh, by the way. Glad you're here. I hope you're having a good day down there. Give our best to the missus. So one of the things... Give me a second. I got to pick back up where I was at with that. So I was talking to you about how the end of the world is just the beginning, right? And in that new beginning, maybe we can find some answers and say that, you know, one of the things we're going to look for is truth. We'll look at issues. We'll be practical about it. We'll look at all the points of them and we'll say, is this good or is this bad? And we're going to do something you're not allowed to do on the internet. And it makes me one of the most hated men in America. And I got to admit, I love doing it. We're going to say some things are true and some things are false. We're going to go ahead and say, no, you're wrong. And we're going to say, yeah, we're right. And you don't, we're like, I don't agree with you and I don't feel that way. Don't care. Really don't care. You know what? F your feelings. That's how I feel. Give you some southern heat? Yes. What the wife is making these southern heat. Dana says hi, by the way, for everyone else. What would be southern heat? Me doing Buford T. Justice?
No, like Spencer.
Like Spencer? Oh, I'm not in the mindset for that. My wife wants me to give you a Southern Baptist preacher impression. You want to do that? I tell you what, sons and daughters, you need to understand that the Lord will not have patience for those who do not follow His way. These people have fallen into evil. They have fallen into damnation, and they will be going to burn in the hellfire inferno, which they have so richly earned. And we pray against them, brothers and sisters out there. We do not want to see that happen. But
Yes,
what?
I want like Southern Baptist, not Robert E. Lee.
They sound the same to me.
No, they don't.
You see what I deal with? You think it's hard? People thought these critics were going to cause me problems. I live with the biggest critic I'll ever deal with. She's brilliant and deadly. Lord knows. I think, look, I can't sound like a Kentucky. Joseph's here. He can attest. I can't sound like a Kentuckian. That's what, I hate to say this, but that's what Spencer sounds like.
Okay, well then try to do like the gummy deep south stuff.
What, you might use Bubba voice? I've come here to blitz that say I don't know where we come from, but you may come by himself here. We're good to see, boys. So anyway, it's a long experience. It's a long story from long ago that involves a chicken and a biscuit, a rest stop, and a lost Yankee in southern area. But what can you do? Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Dean. I'm sorry that for people who are having the problem. How was my? You guys like my Robert E. Lee? Was that pretty good for a Yankee? I don't do a better Joshua Chamberlain. I tell you that. I am not the best guy at voices. The only one I could do as a kid was Urkel, and the only time I ever didn't get booed off a stage doing karaoke was doing Green Day. True story, funny song. I can still sing some of those things, although you don't want to hear it. So, what we are talking about here. So, and people are asking me, I guess I'm supposed to talk about current events. Look, our government's out of control. I'm glad that a little bit of money's getting to people from the stimulus package, but it's literally just a little bit. I think I saw 92% of the money's going to a load of crap. But basically, every left-wing government in America just got bailed out. Really going to be great for the country. I'm sure they'll have lots of good uses for all that. And I hate that I feel that way, but to be honest with you, cities are kind of insane. I had a funny idea for a story the other day I was going to tell you guys. I was imagine if there was some eco-terrorist group, climate change people, and they said, we're going to go ahead and blow up the 400 biggest metropolitan areas in the world. Could you imagine what a different world we'd live in? How terrible and sad it would be without all the cultural benefits of all those cities and all the wonderful ideas they foist on the rest of us who've chosen to literally run into the sticks, into marshes and bogs to avoid them. What did I say? I'm sorry. Was that insensitive? That was a little insensitive. But I look, leaving aside the terrible human tragedy of it, the truth is the bigger tragedy might be in the long term, the crazy ideas that come out of these places. And so we are going to talk about some different things. In the future, and this is one of the things I've had as a big idea, there is a big anti-American left, but there really isn't an anti-American right because everyone's caught up in patriotism and nostalgia and nationalism. And look, I support all those things too, but just for a country that loves you, that doesn't hate you, that doesn't hate your religion, doesn't hate your ethnicity, doesn't hate your gender identity, and doesn't hate the fact that you live in rural areas. So as we have a vision of future, there's always these dystopias that end up moving in one direction towards urbanization, but we are going to begin imagining what a ruralized future is, where we don't have to live under their control, because let me tell you something, even though they make the toys, we're the ones who learn how to use them, and that's one of the things we're going to begin exploring. We're going to look at technology from a decentralized perspective. We're going to go back to some of the COVID stuff. I'm going to talk about how, as you can't say on here, 98% of the flu cases went away, and all of a sudden they think it's going to come back. I wonder who are all those people who had COVID, what they were really dying from. And I'm not counting the ones who jumped off roofs but had COVID, so they were judged as going through this, but that's something we're going to watch. And I'll tell you another thing I've been watching. Down in Brazil, they're going down there saying there are more cases than ever before. All of a sudden, you see all this pressure to put Bolsonaro out of power. Do you see a global worldwide coup happening? Maybe I do. And we're going to look at some of those things, and we're going to connect the pieces you all like to talk about. We'll go ahead. I'll talk about some public events, and we're going to talk about God, too, because you know what? Jesus is the only one who's going to save us for this. You think we can save ourselves? We're sinners, we're lost, and we're damned. You don't have to be a Southern preacher to understand that. You can be a Yankee with a gray beard. But what you do begin to understand is that you have to look to the gospel for the answers. And why do I say this to you? Because that is where you will begin to find a different way of being. We need a new society concept. We need to rethink everything because none of this is working. None of it's good. And all we are doing is digging ourselves out of deeper into a hole. What I would say is instead of searching for intellect, we're going to begin searching for wisdom. And I think that's really important. So that is where I want to go with this program. And eventually we'll get there. We're probably 2 weeks out from me finishing my book. I'll have to get it edited, do all that little stuff, but I'll start coming back at that point because that's not too hard. And we'll come up with a clever cover. What I really wanted to call the book, I told Dana today, was Trickle Down Evil. That's what we're facing. And we need to be unafraid to seek out and understand the good. And in every sense of it, the highest sense is the spiritual, but the other senses matter too, because it's the ladder that brings you down instead of the escalator into the abyss we've been on for a very long time. And so we'll try to talk about that. We'll have some laughs. I'll be more caustic, but I'll also bring the other pieces in because we're the wild ones and we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to get a little crazy and take civilization to the fringe. But you know what? That's where it's going to survive. We are the mad librarians of the collapse. It's kind of nutty how it all works out, but I don't know. I guess I'm in a little bit better mood tonight than I've been most of the day. My daughter tried to explain the pronoun use with the transcar app, and honestly, it doesn't make one sense at all, not one bit. Well, Dean, your problem is you have a case of chronic rationalism. If you go ahead and you suffer from an excess of logic, my friend, we have a room that we can lock you up in because you should be able to understand that every pronoun is as valid as any other one. And if Zir or Zim or Zwalulu go ahead and say they want something, well, just let them have what they want. You know what you learn? You never argue with crazy. It is terrible, though. I don't like it. So, I mean, and you guys probably know that. So if you all have any questions, I will go, because Dana told me she wanted me to go up to 30 minutes, and I'm having fun with you. Are we having fun, Dana? I think we're having fun. We're having fun. All right, we'll go a few more minutes here just to go ahead and finish this up. So if you have anything good or anything you want to talk about, I'm not going to be around for the next few days, so we can certainly cover it right now and anything that is important to you. I certainly have been keeping an eye for myself on more handgun restrictions coming around. I think they passed a bill today out of the House, and that's going to go to the Senate. I saw an opinion piece where they want to get rid of the filibuster. How predictable. Why not get rid of elections? Why even have the pretense after what you pulled in January? Strike me for that, YouTube. Anyway, so these are the things I'm watching from that front. The other one I've been watching a little bit is sort of weird events between Russia and China. I'm always interested in that. I was hearing, who was it on? They were talking about that meeting in Anchorage between the Chinese and some of Biden's people. Do you remember who that was?
It might have been Mark.
Oh, Marfugel. Yeah, Marfugel News is pretty good. Check him out. Yeah, no, not that one, but I was talking about, it was the same show, though. You're right, it was that. So, and then we were also, Russia's being, accused of cybercrime again, and yet they're threatening cyber attacks against them. And, the thing that's funny is, let's assume that every nation's actually nice and honest, because they're not, but let's assume. At this point, given the nature of the SolarWinds hack, and given the way you could go ahead and manipulate this, the most likely outcome is some third party, maybe someone sits, I don't know, and maybe the European Central Bank in Frankfurt or somewhere therein will go one day and just go ahead and cause all sorts of critical infrastructure systems to collapse in Russia, and then have it happen in America, and neither side will believe the other, and people will be manipulated into a fight they can't get away from. If there's one thing we should have learned these last few years, the system is so effective and redundant because it pushes you into fights you literally can't run from because you have so many tethers to this world and so many things you have to fight for that aren't worth fighting for because you've been told you have to, but it takes away your sanity and your reason because we all think we live in all these systems. And what you have to do, and the only good thing I can tell you at this point is it's a chance for you to start getting out of the systems. I mean, we've done what we can, but it's not even enough to just get out of the system or to be another example. You have to begin being the seed of what can, work. And like a seed, you got to be mobile. You got to be able to adjust where you're going mentally, psychologically. Your only true compass is your spirituality, right? Looking at the Lord and his example. So, we are going to have to think that way, like a seed on the wind, and figure out where we're going to make civilization land. And it's good to have more than one seed, as you know that. You want to have as many as you can to go out there and get this to spread. And we're going to have to figure out how to do it. And we'll try to put together the best program. I mean, I should be good at this. I can be entertaining, right? Y'all know that, otherwise you wouldn't be watching. I'm as smart as any of them, and I've met some of them. I know I could do that. And we'll just have to keep it interesting. But if you guys keep bringing me good topics, and I keep showing up, we'll put on a high-quality show, and maybe we'll figure some things out. I always joked, when I was doing things before, that I won't always get it right, but I won't miss the one that you need to see coming. And that's kind of how I look at it, and that's how I've approached those things. So I do think that better days are here in terms of at least putting together a good program for you. The rest isn't so good, so sorry about that, but I guess it's good for business. We're going to have the book up soon. I will have it up, I suspect, by the end of the first week of April, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's before that. Maybe we're going to do some audiobooks, too. Y'all want more audiobooks? Dana and I have been talking about it. Maybe, April, I'll consider recording one. I'd had previous recorders, and I'm not in a mood to write another book after this for a little bit. I'm telling you, it's a hard book to write, the one I'm working on. It's the hardest one I've had since Loyal Revolutionary, and if any of you have read that one, you know how tough that was on me. So, but we will, the book, though, Welcome to the USSA, and I'm going to probably call it Technocratic Oligarchic Maoism. And I put that on there because, one, the words are scary, two, they come in search of themselves, but three, it's really what you're facing. And we'll have it up, and hopefully you all will enjoy it, and, a couple of you go buy it because that's what helps support the program. And it's useful for me because it's given me time to really think through my own thoughts. Because when I'm talking to you, I mean, you're always aware of an observer. And as many of you have commented over the years, the fact that I talk so quickly sometimes, and thanks for listening at 0.75 speed, I appreciate that. Gives an opportunity for a lot of things to come through, but when I'm thinking, it's going rapid fire, and then I just usually have to bounce things off the poor wife or or a couple friends so that we can figure out what's sane and what isn't. But the idea that we can come up with something else, I think, is necessary. And I think even if it's just as a thought exercise to give us hope a couple times a week, and it's something we struggle to get to, we'll work on it. And you know what? If we come up with a good enough idea, look, I'll go out there, I'll pimp it. We'll find a way to get someone to listen. And people do listen. People know because we have a good track record. We have been ahead of the game from the beginning. INTJ Masterclass. So I guess if there's no other questions, then I will go enjoy my dinner, enjoy the rest of my evening. Let me make a recommendation. I think I made this last week, but I really want to reinforce it. I've been watching this Fall of Civilization series. I think they got 12 of them. Really fascinating stuff to learn about why things happen the way they do. And if you begin to pull yourself out of it, what you realize, and I think this is why things happen the way they do too, is the people who are told that they have to keep going forward with a system that attacks them or takes advantage of them, which is how all systems must end, with someone blaming someone else and attacking them needlessly. It's just the way of all big endeavors, most relationships do. God bless those of us who are married who manage to get past that somehow. What we will go ahead and we will find is that the civilization, when you stop investing into something that's not invested in you, it's liberating. It will make you feel better. It will give you hope. And even if you're living in a simpler life that's free of all the hypocrisies and the veniality, it's better. And this is part of the civilization cycle. Look, winter is coming. And we are ready. I got the beard for snow season. We'll deal with it. So that's kind of how I'm looking at civilization these days. But I recommend that channel just because it gives you a different mindset that might let you see that this is a natural process. It's something we have to go through, and it's not bad. And in the end, is this the end of time? Maybe. I can make a very strong biblical argument, and I'd probably start doing some Sunday sermons. I said I'm going to do it. I've just been trying to get right, and I need to get right after I finish this book, because it's a little bit of a mental thing. I was not happy with the things that happened in January. None of us were, right? For a lot of different reasons. And, coming to terms with that took a little while. We all have psychological trauma, and dealing with politics will make you do that. So it's the way it is. All right. Other than that, let's say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, I just pray for everyone listening to this broadcast who comes in here, that you lead us all to truth, that you help us to serve your will and be always a true and faithful voice to each of us. So in Jesus' mighty name, I pray that and safety upon those who listen to this program. So, amen to that, and I hope to see you all soon. Like I said, I would expect not next Friday, but the Friday after that is probably about the time you will have me back. And hopefully you have some good questions. We'll go back to the show on Friday and Monday, I think. Although I might move them forward to 6 p.m. Eastern. Although you can talk about that. If you have strong opinions about any of this and you listen to the program, either now or afterward, leave them in the comments. I will read them about time and scheduling of the programs. The rules are I'm not putting them any later. I just fall asleep. So that's just the way it is. I mean, I could get super early, but I don't think y'all like that. So, other than that, you guys have a great night. God bless each and every one of you. Do keep safe, and hopefully, just don't believe everything you read and hear. It's not right. All right, but we'll get through it. All right, you guys have a good night.